When I started this channel, I had a choice of games I knew I wanted to make videos on, but only when I was ready, when I knew I could do them a modicum of justice. Lisa the Painful RPG, or just Lisa going forward, was one of those games. I love this game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. So let's take a spoiler-free look at it, see what makes it so great, and try to convince more people to play it. Lisa the Painful is a sequel to the original Lisa from 2012, now known as Lisa the First. It was developed by Danelane Productions, a one-man studio. Austin Jorgensen, or Danelane, made the Lisa games almost entirely by himself. Apparently he had some help with some of the music for the DLC of Painful. Lisa the First was a Yumeniki-style exploration game where you play as the titular Lisa, who runs away from her abusive father Marty and journeys across a dreamscape full of metaphors and allegorical imagery. It's not necessary to play this, but it does provide a bit of insight, and there's some nods to it in Painful. For what it's worth, it's free and only about an hour long. And then, in 2014, after a successful Kickstarter, Painful would release. The title screen shows the hanging corpse of Lisa. You take the role of Brad, her brother, as you walk into your home beat up and bruised, only to be abused by Marty as you go upstairs to cry in your room. Jump cut to the future in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where Brad is not okay. You don't know how, you don't know why, but the land is barren and all women are gone. With humanity doomed to die out, a drug-addicted Brad finds an abandoned baby. A female abandoned baby. He and his friends debate on what to do with her. This could be humanity's last chance after all, but Brad won't have it. He won't let her be taken advantage of. This is his chance at redemption, and Buddy is his new daughter. The game raises Buddy, but Brad can't shake his dependencies. He's too tormented by his past. And one day, while he was away, the secret got out. Buddy is gone, and Brad will do anything to get her back and protect her from the monsters of the land, both the metaphorical and the literal. And so your quest begins. You are Brad, a sad middle-aged man with nothing left to lose. You'll do anything to get your daughter back, and you'll journey across the dangerous lands of Olathe to do so. You'll beat up bandits, you'll recruit companions, your past will come back to haunt you, and you'll fight the horrors that wait, because your life means nothing if you fail to protect Buddy. Also, this game's a comedy. Well, it's a half comedy. Lisa's a game of extremes. So that premise is as dark and serious and depressing as it sounded, and it's played straight, but for every dark bit in Lisa, there's a ridiculous part to contrast it. You know what Brad was doing when he was away when his house got attacked? Saving his first companion, Terry Hintz, the lord of the tutorial. And if you thought he sounded ridiculous, his attack is tripping, falling, and sliding into an enemy for like 1 damage. Terry sucks, and there's absolutely, definitely no reason to use him. But that's okay, because as you begin your adventure, you'll be ambushed by Brad's childhood bully, who comes in on a cute little deer named Spaghetti and offers you a deal. All your starting items, or Terry's life. So yeah, an almost jarring mix of grim comedy, and it works. Because they contrast so much, it makes each a bit more effective. It keeps you on your toes as you really don't know what'll come next. This is the post-apocalypse. There are no rules. People will do what they want, no matter how dumb. Some of the guys you meet really are just normal everyday people, trying their best to have any sort of life in this world. On the other hand, the standardized currency is adult magazines. The world doesn't make sense, and that makes it scarier. Then we have the characters. No spoilers obviously, but Brad is a great example of a morally great protagonist. He wants to protect Buddy from a very hostile world. He isn't wrong about there being legions of people who will likely abuse her. But at the same time, he's jeopardizing the future of humanity, as Buddy's the last known female of the species, and he won't listen to anyone else's opinion on the matter. Objectively, he's doing the wrong thing, but you can understand his perspective and why he's so determined not to let another loved one be a victim. Then we have the colorful supporting cast. The characters of Lisa run the gambit of silly, to sillier, to psychopathic. Some of your first party members might be Olin the Archer or Rage Ironhead the Wrestler. Then there's Harvey Alabaster, Fish Lawyer. He wields guns and paperwork. The party members you recruit will be strange at times, and the people you fight will be strange at times. I find it makes the game more endearing. All of this works towards a gripping story by the end, and the narrative and gameplay mechanics work together to enhance it. The actual game is a turn-based RPG. You'll navigate the world map on a 2D plane and get into turn-based battles. You've got basic attacks, skills that cost points to use, you can guard and use items, pretty standard at first glance. On the surface it looks similar to other games of the genre, but many aspects have minor tweaks that keep it unique. But before that, let's touch on the presentation. First, let's talk about the music. It is what I'd like to say. Honestly, I kinda struggle to describe it. It's a real mix of just about everything. Some of the tracks are more somber, some are loud and abrasive, some are acoustic, some are techno. Jumping ahead, one of the songs in the DLC integrates air horn as an instrument. You never know what you're gonna get, and it definitely fits the weirdness of the setting and can match its varying tones. Graphically, Lisa uses really nice pixel art for its characters and environments. The land of Olathe is mostly brown or other duller colors, but the game doesn't feel washed out or bland. I think it's because of how cartoony everything is and how more vibrant colors are used as accents. At any rate, it works well at making everything both drab and lively. It also works as a great contrast when the game wants to get more grimy and disgusting. The character designs generally look like simplified caricatures. Everyone's features are exaggerated, but not too overdone. Then we have the mutants, the literal deformed monsters scattered across the land. Some of them are more relaxed, others are violent, all are deadly. Because all the characters are such cartoons, more cutesy for lack of a better word, the contrast of a mutant has a greater effect. These things feel imposing because they don't belong in a lineup of all the other enemies. There are times where the visuals or sound can really nail the presentation or add to a joke, but it's not the kind of thing I can just explain, so you'll have to play it yourself to understand. And on that topic, let's delve into the gameplay. Specifically what I said about the game initially seeming like a standard RPG, but how everything has a little twist. The first thing I want to point out is that this game is almost entirely made up of unique battle encounters. You don't just get pulled into random fights with generic enemies. Most of the time, you fight individuals with names who don't respawn when they die, and unless they intentionally surprise you, you can see them coming and prepare for them. Aside from a small handful of areas where generic enemies can infinitely respawn, the encounters in this game are unique and one time only. There isn't any grinding here. What this does is make encounters a precious resource, but I'm getting ahead of myself a bit, so let's review the more basic systems in combat. As mentioned before, you traverse the overworld on a 2D plane, jumping up or down cliffs, and using a bicycle you get early on to go over gaps. Actually getting around is pretty fast and easy for the most part. The world doesn't feel too big or small, and while you can't save anywhere, save points are frequent. There's also some exploration to be done to find hidden extra items or recruit more party members, so it's worth looking around and interacting with whatever you can find. But as you explore, you'll get into battles, and there are a few things to mention here. I'll start by saying that combat can be very lethal if not taken seriously. Even if you have the best gear and have been fighting every fight, it's not out of the question for bosses to down a character very quickly or just one-shot them. One of the things that makes the mutants so dangerous is that some of them can not only one-shot your party members, but use a rare move that permanently kills them. Now this sounds pretty unfair, but the game gives you some important tools to balance the playing field. Status effects. In Lisa, they'll typically only be battling a single enemy at a time, though there will be group battles. And while that enemy may be dangerous, they're a single target to bully with poison, burning effects, and various forms of stun and accuracy lowering abilities. While you have a party of 4, where Brad is always mandatory, there are 30 recruitable party members. They range the gamut of effectiveness, but with the right team, you're almost unstoppable. Essentially, the game can bully you, and you can bully the game back. The amount of party members also mitigates the feeling of loss if you lose one or two of them. The variety of party members is really fun here. While some use SP as a resource to use skills, this gives equivalent to MP, others use TP, a bar that starts low at the beginning of battle, but fills when they take and deal damage. So while they can't use their max output all the time, the TP characters can reliably use their skills without needing to worry about them running out of SP. Some party members are more support based, while others have strong single target moves or abilities that deal damage to all enemies. Experimenting and finding good synergies is a fun aspect of this game that others with fewer or more generic party members don't quite have. Then we have Brad's combat style, although there are others that share it. While attacking, Brad allows you to input button presses to perform a variety of attacks to string together a combo, instead of him dealing a single good hit. You may then look at his skills and see they have an input sequence listed beside them, and inputting that combo will have Brad do his normal attack, followed by the skill. As long as Brad has SP, he can attack and use a skill every turn, and he's got some good ones. He's a good powerhouse to have in your party, until he's having a bad time. Now we get to one of my favorite mechanics in the game, for its blend of gameplay with the narrative: joy. I mentioned before that Brad has a drug problem, and that drug is joy. Little blue pills that make you feel numb and forget about your problems. Unfortunately, joy has some side effects, one of which is as addictive. Every now and then, Brad will suffer from withdrawal, lowering the power of his physical moves dramatically. The only way to get rid of it is to fight a certain amount of turns until it goes away, rest, which has its own risks, or take some joy. While on joy, Brad or anyone else who takes it will have all their attacks crit for massive damage. These little blue pills are rare, but they can easily win you a boss fight. If Brad's not even the only character with joy addiction, as you can get party members that also suffer from it. So this becomes another aspect of party building, where you need to factor in if certain characters are worth keeping on the team, when they could become useless in any given moment. Sure, you could just give them joy, but it's rare, and who knows if there's any negative consequences to it. And speaking of negative consequences, resting. Around the game are various places to rest, some being more safe than others. This is the post-apocalypse, so a random campfire might not be the most secure. Maybe nothing will happen, maybe you'll lose a party member or get robbed. If you find a place you can rest safely and reliably, I recommend you remember it. It's a bit of an annoyance admittedly, but more of a minor one, and it does fit the world and theming. It just makes it more tedious to backtrack to a safe place to heal up after combat. So we have a mix-up of traditional mechanics. Combat is unique, limited, and potentially deadly. You have 30 potential party members with unique skills that may or may not be useful. This is further compounded by the in-universe drug addiction some of them are dealing with that acts as a major debuff, and status effects make and break everything. This all really works together. It can be hard to make turn-based combat interesting, or have it not grow boring after many hours, and the way Lisa gives you less encounters but asks you to think your way through them makes it compelling instead of tedious. In addition, since the battles are unique, for the most part, so are the battle rewards, the experience points most of all. Fights are hard, and there's only so much XP you can get to level up your party, so you'll be invested in getting all of it. Battles effectively become a precious resource, as a single level may unlock a new skill, or give you just the edge you need to cleanly make your way through the next fight. And while the massive amount of party members means losing one or two doesn't dramatically make the game impossible, it'll sting to lose that investment. For better or worse, this game is called the Painful RPG. As you journey along, you'll see Brad make a lot of decisions, but sometimes the decider will be you. I mentioned before how you'll have to choose between Terry and all your initial items at the start of the game. This choice is meaningful, but not too impactful when you figure you don't have many items yet, and Terry is, at this point, a pretty useless party member. While the choices won't end there, and they'll only get more difficult. I won't spoil them because I'd like to see people discover them themselves, but they have real, tangible effects on the story and gameplay. They narratively define who Brad is as a person and will change some aspects of combat. There isn't a clearly best choice either, depending on certain factors. Lisa only has a handful of them, but when it asks you to make a choice, it feels meaningful. While I generally try to include some criticisms or negatives of the games in my videos, no game is perfect after all, I genuinely struggle to think of any substantial faults with Lisa. Backtracking to safer areas to rest is annoying as I mentioned, but it's in service to the setting and the feel of the game. A risky convenience over a safer inconvenience. Some of the party members are really gimmicky or bad, but that just makes them stand out more and allows for better experimentation. There is a part where you need to play Russian roulette with your party members, which can permakill them, but I have a mindset of keeping every party member alive, and it doesn't matter too much if you don't care about that. It is luck based though, so it could go really bad for you. The only thing I definitely don't like is the infinitely spawning snake enemies in 2 areas. They're a bit strong in my opinion, and while the poison makes sense, it's very annoying. You could complain it doesn't explain a lot about its lore, but that was remedied a bit by its sequel DLC, Lisa the Joyful, which takes place immediately after the original game's ending and follows Buddy and how she sees the world. Joyful is a solid follow-up to Painful, expanding on certain characters and aspects of the lore to make it a bit more well-rounded. It is a tad more difficult though. Don't be afraid to use Joy, the game wants you to use Joy. In the end, it gives a satisfying conclusion in my opinion, and it'd be perfectly fine if it ended there. And it did in an official sense, but that didn't stop the fans. Lisa has a pretty decent fan game community, and while many don't see completion, there are a few good ones here. Lisa the Pointless and Lisa the Hopeful seem to be the 2 most commonly talked about, so if you end up liking Lisa, maybe check those out as well. I'm sure you can find many others that may interest you if you look around. Lisa is just fantastic in terms of its story, its weird mix of dark themes and goofy comedy, its graphical style, its music, and its gameplay. They all fit together to make legitimately one of the best games I've ever played. This game is cheap, it's short but sweet, it has decent replay value in its choices and different party compositions. It's truly one of the best games I know. So if you want an indie gem, a dark and crazy narrative, a wacky world of adventures, or just a really good game, go play Lisa the Painful RPG. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like or comment. If you want to hear about more underappreciated games, subscribe to my channel for more content.